and welcome to the Marcus Stalin podcast. Ooh, look at what's crawling on my desk right now. An ant. Very nice timing with God's help because we are talking about ants today. You might be like, ants? Alright, time to skip this video. No, we're talking about ants, but in the Bible kind of sense. You might be like, what? Well, let me explain what I mean by this. Ants are actually mentioned in the Bible. Ants are never mentioned in the Bible. Well, let's read Proverbs 6:6-9, shall we? Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways, and be wise, which having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer, and gathers her provisions in the harvest. How long will you lie down, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? Well, let's understand what is Solomon trying to say here? Well, let me explain. Let's see. Go to the ant. So, who is this addressed to in the first place? It's addressed to a sluggard. But what is a sluggard? Well, basically someone who's being very lazy in their work. And let's see. What should we go? Okay, so we understand who is this letter addressed to. Now let's understand what is it trying to say. Well, its first words itself summarize what it is trying to say. It's trying to say, go to the ant. Now, so we know we should go to the ant. So sluggard, go to the ant. That's what he's saying here. Observe her way. So what is its command? Its command is to observe the ant. So what is he saying? He's saying, hey sluggard, I want you to observe an ant. Why should we observe an ant? Well, after this introduction passage, Solomon comes and reads our minds and understands we are like, why should I observe an ant? And in the next section, the major section, he addresses why. Well, let's see how he addresses this. Well, let's see the next word. And be wise. So he's saying first the outcome that this will bring. So, hey sluggard, when you observe an ant, then you become wise. That's what he's saying. But why? How? Well, with having no chief, officer, or ruler. So it has no leader over it. You might be like, yes, no king, baby. Well, no, it either doesn't have a president, an anarchist, or anything. Nothing. What it really has is no ruler at all. You might be like, hey, anti-queen, stop putting your hippopotamus over here. Well, let me explain what I mean by this. Ants might have queens, but they are more like the mother. You might say that your mom is the queen of your life, but the thing is, she's not a literal queen, unless you're a prince or princess, that is, and chances you are very slim. So, what I'm saying is, the queen ant is not the actual queen. Even though she might have that title, she is not. And somewhere in the early 2000s, people even wanted to remove the queen ant of her pompous title. Well, so that's what we learned. But the time for one more interesting fact that really pushes in what Solomon says that they have no ruler is that the queen, that the ants who are not queens even order the queen around. For example, some ant colonies, they always stay home in the winter. But when the summer comes, Then they all come out, but they can't stay out too long. There's a certain time for that. But the queen wants to stay out long. I want to stay out longer. But the other ants have to push her back inside the hill. So that proves your point right there. That the ants have no chief, officer or ruler. But they still work. They prepare their food in the summer and gather their provision in the harvest. They prepare and gather their provision so when they need it, it can come. What he is saying here is ants collect food and then store it for a time they need it. They work with integrity. They work when nobody is looking. They work no matter what. Even if they have no ruler, they work knowing what is right. That's what Solomon is saying. Now, he goes back to, now remember the first words, oh sluggard. Well, Solomon kind of explains to us what a sluggard is here. How long will you lie down, oh sluggard? So he's saying, basically, a sluggard lies down. How long are you gonna lie down? When will you arise from your sleep? I mean, we always sleep during the summer months, right? Oh, it's summer, let's go skedaddle onto a bed, shall we? No. The ants work during the summer and they get profits in that during the winter time. Alright, when will you arise from your sleep? As for you, I think you have to arise from your sleep now. Well, you might say, well, that was a nice talk. Well, arise from your sleep because we have more to talk about here. Let's look at some ants. Let's study more about ants and understand what is Solomon trying to say here. Let's understand and dive deep into the ants. Alright then, let's look at some more things about the ants. Alright, so let's just dig in this fact that, let's just remember, we are working because God is with us. Not because anyone else is there, because God is with us. We are not NPCs or non-player characters. We can control our actions. We have free will. But we should use that free will in the correct sense for yourself. And we should have integrity. Like Colossians 3:23-24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ who you are serving. Ants might be small, but they can lift things much larger than their body. We have to remember that. They can almost eradicate whole species because some ants are supercolonies. But what are supercolonies, you might ask? Oh, you poor thing. We have to learn one more thing from the ants that most sluggards don't know. How are we going to learn about all this? Well, let's follow a certain make-believe character called Mr. Sluggy. Okay, I named him up. Okay, so let's explain what Sluggy does. Okay, let's just call him Matthew Sluggy. So let's just call him Matt. So the thing about Matt is, Matt always lies around. He always is like, yawn. That's Matthew Sluggy right there. But let's see what happens to Matthew Sluggy one day as he's reading Proverbs 6:6-9. He decides, I'm gonna rise from my sleep. When? Now. Well, he starts on his work. Watch as he goes exactly through what we're going to talk about today. Now, he decides to start actually working. So when he starts working, he realizes there's one teensy problem. What is the business he takes in? Well, let's hypothetically say he takes in the business of making pencils. Why pencils? I don't know. Well, let's say he wants to make a pencil. Now, when he's making a pencil, he needs wood, okay, as the first thing. Then he needs lead. Then he needs the metal, and then he needs the eraser. So altogether, he needs 4 materials. So Matt thinks as he goes to bed that night, how's he gonna get these 4 materials? He thinks, why don't I go outside and breathe in that fresh air of Chicago, and then go all the way out to the woods, buy an axe with his own hands, chop, and then carry them with his own hands back and forth, and then go and dig under the earth, find the lead, and bring that back in his own pocket. And then you basically get the drift in what I'm saying. Well, if he goes and gets all these ingredients, it might take him a few days and very painful pockets, very painful hands, and many splinters, and a very painful back. So he thinks, how am I going to do this? Well, he decides to go back to that verse. He decides to go to the ant. Now he looks across some YouTube videos and finds an interesting kind of ant, the Argentine ant. Now the Argentine ant is a super colony. Now what's a super colony? Well, let's see what the Argentine ant is even from. Well, the Argentine ant is, as the name suggests, from the country of Argentina. Now, there was this boat going to Africa and to America. Okay? Now, back at home, the Argentine ant was very, very small, like smaller than most ants. Now, South America is known for vicious creatures, and these vicious creatures were easily winning this Argentine ant off in battles. So that was very bad for the Argentine ant. Now, during this time, that boat which was going to the American colonies, or just America as you could say, was actually going to America. And when he went to America, they found out that all the people in America ate megadies, and when they became very fat bees. Okay, I made that part up, but they were much easier to do than their South American counterparts. So it decided to keep dominating. Now it was a super colony, which means if this colony goes to Africa, it will declare war with that colony, even though it's its species, even though it's its own colony. Let me explain that in a much simpler way. Let's say there's a large colony, okay? And one group splits and goes far away. And the group it split from meets that colony a few years later. Then they'll declare war on each other, not knowing this. But in a super colony, when you meet like that, they're friends. Which means when they work together, they dominate. Now, this means they weren't substituting to their old Argentine counterparts. But more importantly for us, it means we should work together. Matthew Sluggy learned his lesson from that and called some other friends of his, and with God's help, in no time, he got those 4 materials he needed. Now, let's look, and now we learn that with the more amount, when many people come together and work together with God's help, with their skills, but most importantly, God should be there, then you can take down so many number of ants. or big obstacles. I mean, the army ant, which is very small but has lots of numbers and good strategy with God's help. Now, who gives strategy? God gives the strategy. God gives the people. So without God, you get nothing. The army ant can even take down wasps, and even if the queen wasp survives, the colony is gone. With the inflictions this army ant puts in. So, whatever you learn to it, yourself, go to that. Don't be lazy. Have integrity. With God, God is the main thing in our team, and with God's help, teamwork is also very important.